The sun rose slowly over the vast savanna of the Masai Mara in Kenya. A soft golden glow enveloped the landscape, while the morning dew still glistened on the tall grasses. In the first light of day, a mother elephant walked quietly through the dry grass with her playful calf. Each step of her heavy feet left deep marks in the earth, while her trunk occasionally touched the little one lovingly. They were temporarily separated from the herd. The mother had deliberately withdrawn to teach her calf how to survive, how to find water, smell danger, and read the wind. The young elephant was still small but full of energy. Its ears flapped with excitement as it circled its mother. Every morning they took a walk together across the open field, where the calf learned how to dig for water, listen to the ground vibrations, and remain calm in unfamiliar situations. The grass here was tall and dry, sometimes sharp and unpredictable, but it offered just the right challenge for the learning process. The mother elephant blew softly through her trunk, a gentle warning signal. "Be careful," she seemed to say as she looked at her calf, but its eyes shone with curiosity. Everything was new, everything was exciting. That morning, as they approached a strange edge of the grassland, something caught the calf's attention. Amid the waving grasses lay a dark opening in the earth, barely visible beneath a carpet of fallen leaves and loose sand. The calf stepped closer, its trunk probing the ground. It sniffed the edge of the hole, its eyes wide with wonder. And then, a split second was enough, it lost its balance. The sand slid from beneath its feet, and with a raw, terrified scream, it plummeted to the ground. The morning silence was shattered. The mother elephant whirled around. Her heart pounded, her trunk trembled with panic. She rushed to the edge of the pit and looked down. There, in the dark hole, lay her child, struggling and screaming. Its tiny trunk waved helplessly in the air. The mother elephant trumpeted loudly, her call echoing across the plains. She wanted to jump down, save it immediately, but the pit was steep, too narrow, too dangerous. Her fear and helplessness mingled into a raucous roar that carried far into the hills. The mother elephant began to circle the hole with her powerful legs, her trunk reaching down, desperately searching for a way to pull her calf out. But the walls of the hole were steep, the earth dry and crumbly. Every time she tried to dig or lower her trunk, the sand only slid further and fell over her calf. The young elephant struggled to find a footing with its weak legs, slid back again and again, and finally, exhausted, rested its head on the floor. Its breathing was heavy, its tiny body barely moving. It was tired, too tired to cry. At the top of the hole, the mother elephant trumpeted with a mixture of desperation and pain. Her eyes shone with concern. Her enormous body trembled with helplessness. She knew she couldn't save her calf here alone. After a final glance down, a long, trembling trumpet blast as a farewell, she turned and began to walk. Not away from her calf, but searching for help. Her instincts guided her, her steps purposeful and heavy. She crossed the arid grassland, her trunk wagging determinedly, her eyes alert. She knew the area. She knew where people came, and that's where she had to go now. At the edge of the reserve began the main asphalt road often used by tourists. From a distance, the mother elephant saw a column of safari vehicles slowly rolling down the black ribbon of road. Without hesitation, she ran toward the sound of engines, her enormous body shaking with speed. When she reached the road, she suddenly turned toward the center and stopped there, right in front of the leading jeep. The driver had no choice but to slam on the brakes. The tires squealed, the dust billowing. Panic broke out in the vehicles. Tourists screamed softly. Some grabbed their cameras, others their children. But the mother elephant remained motionless. She made no sound, made no threat. She simply watched. Right into the eyes of the man who stepped out first. David, an experienced nature guide who had worked in the Masai Mara Reserve for years. His job was to guide travelers, share knowledge about flora and fauna, and above all, to understand animals. And what he saw now wasn't an attack. It was a cry for help. He held out his hand to the rest of the convoy and stepped forward slowly. One step, another, his breathing steady, his gaze focused on the elephant. She didn't budge, but she trembled, as if hoping this human would understand her. The mother elephant looked at David with a look that pierced his very marrow. Her eyes, large and dark, were filled with despair. She stepped forward without aggression, her enormous body surprisingly controlled. She let out a raw, trembling trumpet call, not loud but imbued with emotion. The tourists, now disembarked and at a safe distance, followed the animal's every move with rapt attention. Some held their breath, others whispered to each other in astonishment. What they saw seemed like something no guide or brochure had ever promised. A wild animal asking for help. Suddenly, the elephant extended her trunk and gently rubbed it against David's shoulder. A tender gesture, as if trying to get his attention, to make a point. She groaned softly, turned her head into the distance, toward the vast grasslands, and then looked back at him, as if saying, "Come on, help me." At that moment, David's gaze fell on a long, winding scar running down the side of her neck. His breath caught. He knew that scar. 2 years ago, during a devastating drought, he had rescued an emaciated elephant from a dried-up mud puddle. She had been unable to move, her skin parched, her eyes dull. He had pulled her free with a team of rangers, brought her water, treated her wounds, and finally returned her to the herd. That was this elephant. He felt it with certainty, and she recognized him. The recognition in her eyes broke something inside David. Without hesitation, he placed his hand on her rough skin, just above the scar. A shiver ran through her. Not of fear, but of trust. She knew she had found the right person again. David turned to the group of tourists who were staring at him wide-eyed. "Stay calm," he said in a soft but clear voice. "She's asking for help. Her calf is in trouble somewhere. We'll follow her, but keep your distance and stay calm." And without another word, he turned and began walking after the elephant, who was already heading back toward the open plain. A few curious guests followed him, silent and impressed. The rest stayed behind by the vehicles. The mother elephant moved with determined speed through the tall grass, her trunk occasionally raised, her stride broad and purposeful. Then, from a distance, a faint, broken trumpeting note broke through the silence. The calf's call. The sound was thin and desperate, like a whisper on the wind. But it was enough. It spurred David and the others on. Everyone's heart pounded now. They knew every moment counted. After walking for over a mile through the parched, yellow-brown grass, the mother elephant led David and the tourists to a spot where the land suddenly broke into a dark chasm. The deep hole loomed, hidden among the grass, like a silent menace in the vast landscape. David quickly walked to the edge and looked down, his heart clenched at the scene unfolding there. At the bottom of the hole, the young elephant lay motionless on his side. His breathing was heavy, his small body barely moving. Around him lay clumps of earth and broken roots, clear evidence of his fruitless attempts to climb up. The mother elephant stood at the edge of the hole, her ears spread, trumpeting in fear and frustration. She rocked back and forth, her feet scraping the ground as if she were about to plunge into the abyss. At any moment, David didn't hesitate. He turned and ran back to the safari jeep. His heart pounded in his chest. He knew he had to act quickly. At the car, he grabbed a metal bucket, normally meant for collecting water from small water holes, and a thick, durable coil of rope from the trunk. Two tourists, visibly moved by what they had seen, immediately offered their help. Together, they tied the rope securely to the bucket's handle, checked the knots, and tested the tensile strength. Back at the pit, David cautiously approached the edge. He felt the mother elephant's eyes burning into his back. She stood tensely, but remained still. With a steady hand, David slowly lowered the bucket, inch by inch, until it rested just above the calf's back. At first, the calf reacted with a brief start. Its eyes widened, its trunk curled uncertainly. But then, from the top of the edge, its mother's soft, trembling trumpet sounded. A familiar tone, warm and reassuring. The calf perked up its ears, its body relaxed a little. David knelt down, looked down, and made small, calm hand movements, as if inviting the animal. His gaze met the calf's, and in that moment, something seemed to shift. After several long minutes, during which no one dared to speak or move, the calf raised its trunk and slowly, wobbly, slid into the bucket. Its legs trembled, its body tired, but trusting. The bucket rocked slightly back and forth. David looked up, his voice low but urgent. "Now, slowly." The tourists who had followed formed a line, grasping the rope with both hands. Together they pulled, steadily, carefully. The rope creaked, the metal handle squeaked with every inch the bucket rose. Everyone was straining to the limit. The mother elephant paced restlessly in circles around the edge, her eyes fixed on her child. She snorted each time the bucket rose a little. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the lip of the bucket loomed from the pit. The baby elephant lay inside, his eyes half closed, his breathing heavy but steady. One final pull, and then the bucket was safely at the surface. The relief was palpable. Someone sobbed softly. Others clapped their hands over their mouths. The mother elephant rushed over immediately, her trunk extended. She trumpeted loudly and touched her calf, first on its forehead, then along its side. The calf opened its eyes slightly and made a soft, squeaking sound. Mother and child stood there, united once more, in the center of a circle of stunned people. It was a moment of pure, raw emotion, a miracle no one would ever forget. David crouched at the edge of the pit and carefully reached for the bucket. His movements were slow, controlled, any nervousness carefully concealed by years of experience. With the utmost care, he lifted the young elephant out, its body still limp but warm. It weighed surprisingly little for its kind, a silent testament to exhaustion. David laid the calf down in the soft grass beside the pit, away from the loose sand and sharp stones. The mother elephant trumpeted loudly, her steps echoing across the ground as she hurried to her little one. She bent her enormous body downward, her trunk trembling with emotion. With tender strokes, she stroked her calf's head, blew warm breath on its side, and began to dust it lovingly with her trunk, as if to sweep away every trace of fear and soil. The calf laboriously raised its head, its eyes half closed, and pressed itself against her chest. It let out a soft, almost contented squeak. The tension drained from his body. His body relaxed, and in that relaxation, everything became still. A small round of applause sounded behind them, shy but sincere. The tourists, moved to tears, clapped with smiling faces. David glanced up, the corners of his mouth turning upward. In that moment, he felt why he did this work, why he had never given up, even in the hottest days or the most dangerous situations. A tourist walked over, holding a cooler, and pulled out some cut melon, fruit, and a few leftover bananas, leftovers from their picnic. "They might need some sugar," she said softly. David nodded gratefully and accepted the food. With deliberate movements, he placed the pieces a safe distance from mother and child, allowing them to decide for themselves whether to accept them. The mother elephant first smelled the fruit, then ran her trunk over a piece of banana and brought it to her mouth. She ate slowly but clearly gratefully. The calf, encouraged by its mother, began to suck on a piece of melon, its energy gradually returning. Slowly, the young animal began to rise. Its ears flapped slightly again, and with a wobbly movement, it put down its forepaws and stood up. Wobbly at first, but then, miraculously, it began to walk in circles, first near its mother, then a little further away. The tension in the group fell away like a blanket. Laughter and cries of relief mingled with the rustling of the grass. The mother elephant kept a close eye on her calf, touching it repeatedly with her trunk, checking, reassuring, embracing. Together they stood there in the golden sunlight, their silhouettes powerful and moving against the blue sky. A mother and her child, not as sightseers, but as living souls in a story that had unfolded before everyone's eyes. A few tourists cautiously stepped forward. They kept their distance, but pulled out their cameras and snapped pictures of the extraordinary scene. No one spoke. There was a kind of silence that only comes with true emotion. David looked at the two and felt something warm in his cheek. His gaze lingered on the old scar on the mother elephant's shoulder, a scar from another rescue, another moment when life and death nearly touched. And now, here she was again, with her child, alive, strong, free. David closed his eyes for a moment. This was why he went out into the field every morning. This was why he would never stop. Silently, David turned his gaze to the heavens. His heart beat slowly, filled with awe and gratitude. He whispered a silent thank you to God, for life, for this moment, and for the wondrous opportunity to meet the mother elephant again. Not as strangers, but as old acquaintances, as two beings whose paths had mysteriously crossed again. The mother elephant, now calm and serene, looked at David once more. Her eyes glittered in the sunlight. She raised her trunk and let out a soft, melodious trumpet call, not a warning, but a gesture of farewell, of acknowledgement. The young elephant stood right beside her and turned its head toward David. A squeaky, high-pitched cry escaped its trunk, as if it too wanted to acknowledge its salvation. The air heated with emotion, and something intangible hung between human and animal. No words, no gestures could capture it, only heart to heart. The tourists waved them goodbye, some with tears in their eyes, others with big smiles on their faces. "See you later. Thank you," came from several voices. Someone took a final photo, someone else placed a hand on David's shoulder, but David remained silent. He watched the mother and her calf slowly walk away, their slender shadows sliding across the dry grass. The sun was high now, casting long golden rays across the plain. The tall grasses gently swayed in the wind, as if blessing them on their journey. The sounds of the savanna, bird song, the rustling of leaves, the soft stomp of large feet, filled the space with life. And so the mother elephant and her calf moved on, back into the wild, back to their world of learning, growing, and surviving. David slowly gathered his things. His hands moved calmly, his heart light. A deep sigh of relief escaped his chest, not from exhaustion, but from fulfillment. He had done his duty, not as a hero, but as a human being, like a humble link in the age-old bond between nature and soul. And so, there in the heart of the Masai Mara, a new story was written, a story of gratitude, of love, of the connection between human and animal. Not a fable, not a fairy tale, but a true memory of a day when courage and compassion converged. Dear friend, thank you for taking the time to experience this story with us. If it touched you, please don't forget to like the channel and subscribe. This way you help us continue to share these stories of hope and harmony. See you on the next adventure.